Now, just about 2 weeks ago on the channel, we made a video on the Houston Rockets, and it was essentially about how they've been doing everything correctly in their rebuilding phase, and it's just a matter of time before they're recognized as one of the better young teams in all of the NBA. Now, of course, the Houston Rockets fans, they already realized that. I realized that as well, but I must admit, I didn't think it would happen this soon. At the point in time that we made this video on the Houston Rockets, it was right after Alperen Sengun went down with his ankle injury, and at the time he was playing at such an elite level. Over his last 4 games, he was averaging 27 points per game to go along with 13.5 rebounds and also dishing out 6 assists. That is a lot of production right there. And also at this point in time, we didn't have the Jalen Green that we have right now. Jalen Green was still kind of struggling a little bit on this season and still finding his footing. So with those two things right there, you could kind of think that the Houston Rockets were going to struggle a little bit, but it's honestly been the complete opposite. In the month of March, the Houston Rockets, they have been the best team all month long. I believe on the month they have a record of 13-1, and they're currently on a 12-game winning streak, which is the highest in all of the NBA. And with this dominant month of basketball, the Houston Rockets, they have slingshotted themselves back into playoff contention. They have some serious pressure on the Golden State Warriors right now. They are just a half a game behind these guys right now. And the Golden State Warriors, they are looking like they are on the brink of destruction. There's some really bad aura going on with that team right now. But nonetheless, we're talking about the Houston Rockets. And I think we can all come to an agreement right now that this season or this month of basketball has put a lot of things into perspective for the Houston Rockets. A lot of great things into perspective. And this is whether or not they get into the play-in tournament and get into the playoffs. I think all in all, this is going to end up going down as an amazing season for the Houston Rockets, because I think they figured out so many things that's going to allow them to be a great team over these next couple of years. And one of those great things that have been put into perspective for the Houston Rockets this season is the emergence of Jalen Green. And I'm telling you guys, this time, I am really confident saying that this Jalen Green that we're seeing right now, it is an emerged version of him. This is not something that's just going to go away. And I have a lot of stuff that's making me say that. For starters, right now, the Houston Rockets, them being the best team in the month of March, them having a 12-game winning streak, having a record of 13-1, I think that is so impressive for Jalen Green, because he is the one leading it. He has been the best player on the Houston Rockets by far, and he's just been playing on a different level. And then another thing I like to look at, this is just not the end of the season for the Houston Rockets, where they're not playing for anything, and they have one of the worst records in their conference. But the Houston Rockets are playing some very, very meaningful basketball right now. They put a lot of pressure on the Golden State Warriors, and they're so close to getting that 10th spot and then getting a spot in the play-in tournament. So Jalen Green playing at such a high level under these circumstances. He's playing in a system where they're focused on moving the ball and taking good shots. He's able to put up these great numbers, and he's been able to find his way. And then also doing this while a player like Alperen Sengun goes down. And I see a lot of people having this topic of debate about whether the Houston Rockets should move on from one of these two guys, and I don't think they should at all. I think they should be even more excited. And a lot of people are saying that Jalen Green has been able to play like this because Alperen Sengun has went down with this injury. But if you look at Jalen Green's game log, he started this little hot streak while Alperen Sengun was still in the lineup. And with his teammate going down, he's decided to elevate his game and help lead his team on the court. So I think we should give huge props to Jalen Green. And then that's just another thing that the Houston Rockets should be excited about going forward. We talked about how well Alperen Sengun has been playing this entire season, where he's shown us flashes that he's a rising star and he can one day be one of the best players in the NBA. You've also gotten that same production from Jalen Green. One of these guys is a guard, the other one is a big man. Why would you want to split? Why would you split that up? I think the Houston Rockets going forward, they should be doing everything in their powers to make things work with these two guys out on the basketball court, because it's not often that you get these two types of talents on the same team. So I just wanted to give a huge round of applause to Jalen Green. He's been so fun to watch. His numbers has been crazy. Over his last 7 games, he's averaging 33 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and he's also putting in some newfound effort on the defensive side of the ball. And then also, he's been so fun to watch. I think he's had the craziest clip I've seen in a while when he made the guy fall. He looked at him, he shot the 3, and then he turned around before the 3 went in. That was so crazy. But Jalen Green, he's been excited. And then another thing with the Houston Rockets, another great thing that's been put into perspective of how much of a blessing it was for them to be able to get Coach Ime Udoka. And when you're a team in the rebuilding phase, we all know how important it is to have a really good head coach. We saw how the Houston Rockets looked with Coach Stephen Silas out there offensively, not really too much of anything going on. Literally looked like players were allowed to do whatever they want. And then defensively, the Houston Rockets had no defensive backbone over the last couple of years before going into this season. And then Coach Ime Udoka comes in. Like I said, this is a real blessing for the Houston Rockets. We saw him we saw Coach Ime Udoka, that is, lead the Boston Celtics in 2022. Literally, a team that faced a lot of adversity that season. At one point, they were like the 7th or 8th seed. They looked like they were heading to the play-in tournament. They had one of the biggest turnarounds in NBA history. I believe they ended up finishing as the 2nd seed, and they had one of the best defenses in NBA history. So, getting a coach that was able to do that under that magnitude in Boston, be able to go over that type of adversity and get to the NBA Finals. And I know they ended up losing, but still, the feat in itself is still very impressive for the Houston Rockets to be able to get him. That was big time, and he's made some big time, a big time impact since he's come over to the Houston Rockets, leading them to a top 10 defense this season, giving them an offensive system that is heavy with taking good shots and moving the basketball. And then also, I just love how he's able to connect with the players, instilling confidence in them. You listen to all of these interviews over these last couple of games. He talks about how proud he is of Jalen Green and for how resilient he has been this season, because he knows that it's been a struggle for Jalen Green, because he's had to sit Jalen Green at the end of some games for the Houston Rockets because of his struggle. So I think Coach Ime Udoka, he knows his X's and O's, and then also he just knows how to connect with his basketball players. So getting him is just, I think it's great for the Houston Rockets. Now, last and most certainly not least, another reason why I think the Houston Rockets are absolutely destroying the rebuilding phase. We look at this roster, we look at the organization. They have an abundance of young talent on this team, and they also have some really valuable draft capital. From the trade with the Brooklyn Nets that sent James Harden to the Nets, they still have some first-round picks that they own that belong to the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets have been pretty bad this season. They're going to finish as the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference or worse, so that's a great thing for the Houston Rockets. And we look at the young players on this team. The Houston Rockets have nailed it in the NBA draft. Every year since they've started rebuilding. We look at 2021, bringing in Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, who I think should be the 2 building blocks of this organization. In 2022, they bring in Jabari Smith and Tari Eason. Tari Eason is one of my favorite players on the Houston Rockets. I love him a lot, and I love his upside. I'm going to make sure I say that in every video. And then in the most recent draft, the 2023 NBA draft, they bring in Cam Whitmore, and they also bring in Amen Thompson. So I think all of these factors, these 6 players right here, and then also them still having some first-round draft picks from the Brooklyn Nets, it puts the Houston Rockets it puts them in a great position. It gives them a lot of leverage, and it also gives them the options of taking many different routes. They can choose to develop all of their young talent and see how good they can become as a team, keeping the same nucleus. They could package some of those draft picks and maybe one of these younger other players. I'm not saying this is something that they should do at all. I'm just saying that these are routes that the Houston Rockets can take, but they can use these draft picks and maybe a younger other player to package it and bring in a star player just to help the Houston Rockets out a little bit more as far as trying to reach that ultimate goal that every NBA team wants, and that's to win an NBA championship. So I'm just saying the young players on this team, the young, very talented players on this team, the incoming draft capital, I think it gives the Houston Rockets a lot of leverage. And then I just want to say, we're not going to have time to talk about all these young guys today, but I really enjoy watching Amen Thompson play. It's something about him. It's so weird when he has the basketball in his hands. He moves with this combination of shiftiness and powerfulness. I feel like he can be a very, very dangerous and very, very dangerous open court player in the NBA. He's been a guy that's benefited a little bit as well with Alperen Sengun being out. He's kind of been the de facto center for the Houston Rockets. He's the guy sitting in the dunker position. He's the guy rim running. He's getting a lot of rebounds. That's my favorite. I love watching him rebound the basketball, push the ball, or throw the ball up the court. I'm a huge fan of Amen Thompson. He has some real swagger to his game. But that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. I feel like the Houston Rockets, they have crushed their rebuilding phase, and I think by the time next season comes around, they get another training camp together, guys are more developed. I think they're going to be one of the more dangerous younger teams in the NBA. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.